All right, everybody, welcome. Lords Trustees podcast. We're already on episode 4. Tonight, Minister Joseph Anthony will be going over the metaphysical meaning of Noah, um, as well as we're going to be talking about the living trust. So, as always, let's get the disclaimer out of the way. We do not give any legal or tax advice. Everything that we do is for educational purposes only. So, I will hand off the mic to Minister Joseph Anthony for the metaphysical meaning of Noah. Go ahead, Joe.
All right. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. We're going to go over the metaphysical meaning of Noah. Noah means rest, calm, quiet, peace, tranquility, equilibrium. Now, mind you, as the last episodes we've been going through and knowing that everything, God is mind and everything is conscience. So Noah represents a conscience thought. So I'm going to disclose that before we go on. So it's a thought of calmness, quiet, peace, tranquility, and equilibrium. A son of Lamech, after he called his name Noah, saying, "This shall comfort us in our work and in the toil of our hands, which cometh because of the ground which Jehovah hath cursed." Noah built the ark, which he and his family were later saved during the flood. Noah was also the name of one of the daughters of Zelophehad, uh, a Mansonite, who had no sons, and whose inheritance went to his 5 daughters. Metaphysical, the Noah of Genesis 6-9 was the son of Lamech. Lamech means a strong young man and signifies the strength of youth, and Noah means rest. Thus it is the strength of our youth that we idealize the material and attach our spiritual enthusiasm to things of the sense. But the law of reaction sets in. Noah, rest, finds favor in the eyes of Jehovah. If in the strengthening of your youth you have indulged in the things of sense, the law of spiritual equilibrium, the Lord Jehovah is now working itself out in rest, and you may have bodily ills. This is where the race of wicked thoughts drowns and your earth is cleansed. Noah can also be said to be the obedience through which a seed for a new state of consciousness is saved. Again, Noah typifies the consciousness at rest in God. In Genesis 6:10, the 3 sons of Noah represent the states of mind. Shem, meaning renown, typifies the spiritual. Ham, meaning warm, typifies the physical. And Japheth, meaning extender, typifies the intellect or reason. The interpretation of Genesis 6:11 is that when the faculties of mind has been used in wrong relation to truth, certain destructive processes set in, and the earth, the man-made realm of thought, is in a state of corruption. Genesis 6:12, the law of the Lord begins to regulate the consciousness of man. The flood is representative of the baptism of spirit and is necessary in order to establish equilibrium in the 3 planes of mental activity. Genesis 7:11 through 13, when the whole man, Noah, and his wife, and his sons wives, have been washed in the regeneration, he takes refuge in the ark of the Lord. Man rests in the spiritual part of consciousness, even in the midst of a flood of air. Genesis 7:14 and 15, man takes into the ark all the ideas inherent in being, the positive and the negative, the 2 and 2. Activities of the organism are never separated. Genesis 7:16 and 17, by laying hold of spiritual ideas as the only reality and declaring spirit to be all in all, one is lifted above the earth and shut in with Jehovah in perfect safety. Water represents unexpressed capacity. The whole earth, realm of manifestation, which is here, is filled with potential ideas in your thoughts, waiting for words of truth to move upon the intelligence of the waters and bring forth spiritual realities. When the faculties of the mind find their poise in truth, all lesser ideas die or disappear through a process of transmutation. Even the ideas that seem to contain the breath of spirit of life are lost sight of in the fuller realization of spirit as the only presence and power that surrounds us. When man lets go of his false sense of things and discerns God to be the one source of all good, he rests in spiritual consciousness, representing Noah, with his pure ideas of being, they that were with him in the ark. The waters prevail so long as it's necessary to cleanse the earth, representing your thoughts, thus making ready for the expressions of purer and truer ideas. In Genesis 9:8 through 17, Noah, the consciousness, with his sons, the states of mind, after his purification, the flood, is very closely related to God. God covenants or agrees to bless the purified consciousness, flooding it out, the bad thoughts, and its realms of ideas, and planting new seeds. Every idea, a living creature that's represented in Genesis, is the illumined of spirit. Even ideas related to the body, consciousness, meaning earth, is blessed when man knows the creative law and cooperates with it. Once the consciousness has been cleansed and man has awakened to his spiritual nature, he is saved through obedience to divine law and is no longer subject to dissolution through negative means. This covenant, which is eternal, is of those who give up mind and body into the keeping of divine law. The bow signifies the orderly arrangement of ideas in divine mind and their perfect manifestation. One who is poised in truth rests in the consciousness of God's presence, even in the midst of error, the cloud representing the error. When the man is obedient to the guidance of God, he will never be flooded by negative conditions. The rainbow is a sign of heaven, symbolizing the perfect blending of the race into obedience to one harmonious Christ principle, the endless circle of natural perfection, coming out of obedience to divine law. The woman named Noah pertains to the establishment of poise and equilibrium in the soul of the unfolding individual as you're awakening into your consciousness of one man, one God, one principle, one energy. So that was it, guys, for the metaphysical teaching. I hope you enjoyed the metaphysical meaning on Noah and that thought. And we'll be doing those every Thursday. Any questions?
Joe, thank you very much. That was great.
Does anybody want to need anything to discuss before we move on? This is going to be a pretty thorough lesson. I started for the fellowship members, I started loading the contract lessons into the Substack for that self-governance classes. That's starting to build up, so there's a lot of good info. on the public side that I do this podcast every Thursday for the public, and the metaphysical teaching. That's just to represent our presence out in the public, because we're operating as a fellowship, and we want to show some activity. And Henry and I and everybody and Randy and Janine, when we started the church, we all envisioned doing something and helping. So what we're going to be doing now, though, is focusing really on these next 10 podcasts. I've created a trust course, which this is the first lesson, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to get real extensive in just getting to know and wrap your mind around a trust. So invite your friends if they want to learn about trust, and these videos will be back up for replay after we edit them. So the next 10 podcasts is going to be very extensive from the beginning to drafting at the end. So I hope you guys enjoy and get a lot out of it, because it's going to pertain to what we do on the private side. So that's about it. I'll start with the lesson. If there's any questions, though, we can get them on the table before I start.
I think we're good, Joe. Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody knows in the freedom movement, we're operating out of trust. So we got to know how to manage your affairs, whether you're in the freedom movement or not. But it is moving yourself over to the private side, like we always preaching. Now, us operating as our ministers, and what we're really pushing now, to get private side with the way the world's going, we need to really pick up our spiritual beings, because we can see that man and woman and mankind is awakening, and our consciousness is awakening. So it's time to, take charge of our affairs and stop having that crazy TV government per se. Like I said, I don't really get any political, but that's goes along with the mind teachings and the metaphysical. So that government is just creating whatever thoughts and fear they want to put in your head to think they have power over you. Well, they got a rule book that they've been sticking to pretty much for the most part. So doing this paperwork and structuring your life on the private side, and your businesses and your kids and your children's and your elderly's affairs and all their property and assets into a trust structure, is something that everybody should start learning and comprehending. So that being said, we're going to move forward, and I hope you enjoy the lesson. So what is a living trust? Living trust is a legal document that places your assets under the management of a trustee for the benefit of your chosen beneficiaries. Unlike a will, a living trust becomes effective while you are still alive, offering a more dynamic approach to estate management. The individual who creates the trust, known as the grantor or trust maker, retains control over the assets and has power to dictate their distribution. A living trust serves multiple purposes. Asset management. The trust maker can continue to control them and manage the trust assets during their lifetime. Avoidance of probate. By transferring assets into a living trust, you ensure that your estate can bypass the often time-consuming and expensive probate process. Privacy. Living trusts do not go through probate. The details of the estate remain private, keeping your family's financial affairs out of the public records. Incapacity planning. If the trust maker becomes incapacitated and a designated successor trustee can step in to manage the trust assets, eliminating the need for a court-appointed guardian. Types of living trust. Living trusts are not one size fits all. They come in various forms, each tailored to specific estate planning goals. The two primary types of living trust are a revocable living trust, and this trust allows the grantor to retain full control over the assets while alive, with the flexibility to amend, modify, or revoke the trust entirely. The main benefit of a revocable trust is the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. Although the trust provides no creditor protection during the trust maker's lifetime, it remains a popular choice due to its flexibility. Irrevocable living trust. Once established, this type of trust cannot be modified or revoked. It provides greater asset protection, particularly from creditors, and can offer significant tax benefits by removing assets from the trust maker's taxable estate. While most restrictive, irrevocable trusts are an effective tool for those seeking to protect assets or reduce estate taxes. In addition to these two primary types, they are specialized trusts designed for specific purposes. There's a charitable remainder trust. This trust provides income to the grantor or beneficiaries for a set period, with the remainder going to a designated charity. There's a special needs trust designed to benefit individuals with disabilities, ensuring they receive care without jeopardizing eligibility for government benefits. Minors trust, created for the benefit of young beneficiaries, allowing for asset management and distribution when the beneficiary reaches a certain age. Spendthrift trusts. These protect beneficiaries from reckless spending by controlling when and how the trust assets are distributed. And towards the end of this lesson, when we go through a actual trust, we'll explain the spendthrift provision. Key components of a living trust. The effectiveness of a living trust depends on the precise construction of the trust agreement. The legal document outlining the trust terms, key elements include. I want to say in the first contract lesson that I released today, there was something that stuck out because it pertains not all contracts are agreements, but not all agreements are contracts. And that applies to the revocable and irrevocable trust, because a revocable, and then that's what I'm talking about here, because we're talking about the components and how the trust agreement's laid out, the document outlining it. So if you're contracting in a revocable trust, most of the time you're just setting that up to put your assets into the trust, and you're operating as all three positions. Basically, you're the grantor, you're the trustee, and you're operating as the beneficial interest. Now, mind you, you can structure it in your agreement with, that you can just set up a trust for a beneficial, such as like the special needs trust we just talked about. So I just wanted to make that clear, though. But yeah, all agreements aren't contracts. All contracts are agreements, but all agreements don't always fall into a contract. An irrevocable trust is a contract. A revocable trust is an agreement, but it doesn't stipulate in the court of law that might fall under a contract. So anybody studying, I just want to clarify that so you understand that. So here we go. We got the designation of the trustees. The trustee is the individual or institution responsible for managing the trust assets. The trust agreement also names a successor trustee, very important, especially when doing banking, who steps in if the initial trustee becomes incapacitated or is unable to perform their duties, or even when the grantor passes away and there's a successor trustee name that may close out the account also. So the trust agreement specifies how and when assets will be distributed. This is the distribution of terms to the beneficiaries. This can include an immediate distribution after the grantor's death, or staggered distributions based on specific conditions or milestones. So you can, whatever the grantor writes out, that's all in the terms that you're writing certain specific documents that's held in the trust by the trustees so they know what to do on distribution day. The trust agreement defines the trustee powers. The trustee agreement defines the scope of trustees' authority, detailing what they can and cannot do in managing the trust assets, such as the power to buy or sell assets, invest funds, and make distributions. Provisions for amendment or revocation. In the case of a revocable trust, the agreement outlines how changes can be made while the grantor is alive and competent. Such as an irrevocable is that tight-knit contract. That's why the creditors can't penetrate that because it falls under a contract. So that solidifies that. But you have someone else holding legal title to the property. So you're just a beneficial interest in that situation. The agreement sets forth the procedure for replacing trustees, if necessary, ensuring continuity in the trusted's administration. Assets in the living trust. A living trust can hold a wide range of assets, making it a versatile tool in estate planning. Some common types of assets typically included in a living trust are real estate. This includes your primary residence, vacation homes, rental properties, or undeveloped land, including real estate in a trust. Helps avoid probate and simplifies the transfer to the beneficiaries. Bank accounts and investments, savings, check-ins, brokerage accounts can be placed in the trust for seamless management. Personal property, item of personal sentimental value, such as jewelry, art, vehicles, included in the trust. Business interests, your ownerships in businesses, stocks. Corporations, partnerships, or LLCs can be managed through a trust, ensuring smooth succession. Life insurance policies, including life insurance in a trust, provides controls, distribution of proceeds, and integrates them into a broader estate plan. Your intellectual property, patents, copyrights, trademarks can be managed through the trust, ensuring their protection and distribution. The role of the trustee is the important player in all types in the trust. The trustee plays a crucial role in the administration of a living trust. As the manager of the trust assets, the trustee must act in the best interest of the beneficiaries, adhering to instructions set forth in the trust agreement. The trustee duties include asset management, ensuring assets and preserved invested wisely and distributed according to the trust maker's instructions. Tax compliance, filling necessary tax returns if necessary, and ensuring compliance with applicable tax laws. Fiduciary duties, acting as the best interest of the beneficiaries. The trustee must avoid conflicts of interest and manage assets with prudence and integrity. Effective trustees must also maintain open lines of communication with the beneficiaries. It's very important. Document all actions, dot your I's, cross your T's, and seek professional advice when and if necessary to avoid mistakes in the trust administration. You got the beneficiaries, their roles and benefits. The beneficiaries are the individuals or entities designated to receive benefits of the trust assets. Trust maker can tailor how and when the assets are distributed based on the beneficiary's unique needs. Key advantages of being a beneficiary include direct asset transfer. Bypassing probate ensures the assets are transferred quickly and privately without delays and costs associated with court supervision. Customizable provisions. Distribution terms can be tailored for beneficiaries who are minors, have special needs, or maybe your kid's a little bit out of control, or require protections from creditors. Privacy. That's the main thing why we're doing this. Trust keep the estate's financial affairs out of the public record. Unlike the probate process, which is the matter of public record. And that wouldn't be us. Protection from creditors. Well-structured trust, which we're going to learn to do, and can offer some protection against creditors, ensuring beneficiaries receive their inheritance without undue risk. The key takeaways here, living trusts provide control and flexibility. Living trusts allow the trust maker to retain control over assets during their lifetime while providing clear directives for their management after death. And directives is one of the words you're going to want to learn as we move forward. So that'll be used in other senses also. Probate avoidance and privacy. The ability to avoid probate. That's the main thing. Some of these banks I've dealt with, if you don't have your beneficiaries listed, which they're sort of forcing you to, and you don't, have it structured right, like leaving a trust as the beneficiary to keep it more private, or listing just the successor trustee as the beneficiaries to close out the account. They'll drag your bank account into probate. There's a lawyer sitting to see if people aren't paying attention, and if after maybe your loved one dies, or they have no problem taking those, they'll just say, well, we don't have any information, so this account's got to go through probate before we can release any funds and stuff. So, and especially during today's times. So anyway, I just wanted to probe on that. So the ability to avoid probate and maintain privacy makes living trust a powerful state when set up properly and dealing with the entities you're dealing with. But most of the time, your trust is private, kept in your drawer, and it's just a list of a warehouse of properties that you own and who they're going to go to. That's it. Adaptability to complex estates with revocable, irrevocable, and specialized trusts available, depending on how you structure them. Living trusts can be tailored to meet individual needs regardless of estate size or complexity. Strategic asset management. The diversity of assets that can be included in a trust makes it a versatile option for comprehensive estate planning. Trustees and beneficiary roles. The success of a living trust depends on the selection of a diligent trustee and thoughtful planning for the beneficiaries. By understanding and implementing living trusts effectively, individuals can assure that their assets are protected, their wishes are respected, and their beneficiaries are provided for in a structured and efficient manner. What we're going to do, because I laid this out as a lesson, I'm going to go through a revocable trust and an irrevocable. Well, I'll surprise you. So anyways, I got to stop this to share. So I hope you guys enjoyed that overall review. We'll be doing 9 more, taking you through. So, and this will be up posted with the podcast and this recording on YouTube, and getting everyone familiar with trust, because that's what we do when you operate your ministry. The big thing I'm teaching trust about is not for your courts and stuff like that, is because we're trying to preach being ministers, and by ministers, you and ecclesiastical and spiritual people, you don't want to own anything. You want to tell the public side and be recognized that you gave everything up and you put it all in trust, and you're just, everything you do is operating for your church or your ministries and your First Amendment right to your religious practices and your Article 1, Section 10 rule book for them, that you can contract all day, any day, basically how you want, as long as you got the parties that'll agree to it, and you're not harming no one. And that's the key to living in the private. And then when you put yourself in that position, if you do get in the court situation, you don't own anything and you're not really a public side entity, you can really bring in the jurisdictional clause that they don't have no jurisdiction over you unless they actually got some blood laying somewhere, or someone got robbed by you in a bad business deal. That's about it. So just leave it with that, and we'll go to the next. We're going to go through this trust here. So find this. Henry, everybody still on board?
We're good, Joe. Thank you. That was a great overview. I really appreciate that.
Cool, cool. And that'll be in there for everybody to study and learning. All that stuff's gonna go. You start studying those contract lessons now, and you learn the agency. And by the way, we've got the power of attorney, that template that I put in there. You guys should draft your own power of attorneys. That's what I want you to do. We don't, I mean, you could use the template as it is, but I want you to draft it so you know how to structure. And if you got any questions, just let me know from those last lessons on power of attorney. But I'll have another document up in the behind the page side, one that I have that I drafted up for the straw man, and it's good for what we're doing anyway. So that'll be available for the fellowship members. All right, live and trust agreement. It all starts as a contract, but like we said, all contracts are agreements, but all agreements aren't contracts. This is a living trust agreement, but it's set up for, as clarified right here, this revocable living trust agreement. Trust agreement, hereinafter, is made and entered into on this day, month, year, by, and between. So you got your introduction. You got your grantor. We just went over the players and the the review. This is an actual trust agreement for a revocable trust. Residing at the grantor's address, hereinafter referred to as the grantor. Full legal name of the trustee. Trustee's address, hereinafter referred to as a trustee. So you've got your players, you got a trustee, and you got a grantor, and that could be you, just together, but this is the way you got to lay it out. The grantor establishes this trust to manage, protect, and eventually distribute their assets both during their lifetime and upon their death. This trust is revocable and can be amended or terminated by the grantor at any time. Mind you, it can be amended. We can change it real quick if we need to an irrevocable trust, and I'll surprise you at the end. We got a declaration of the trust. So I want everyone to understand too, because I know we bring in a little bit of law, and you'll learn that in the law lessons, but structuring these trusts is all about intent. So everything in court structure is intent. That's what judges are looking at. It's all about intent, just to keep it simplified. So when you're writing and just thinking with your conscious thought, think about your intent and then put that on paper. Because if you clarify and verify your intent of why you're structuring the trust, there's going to be no problems in your writing. Anyway, declaration of the trust. Grantor hereby transfers, assigns, and conveys all their rights, title, and interest in the property listed in Schedule A to the trustees to hold in the trust under the terms of this trust agreement. This trust shall be known as the, many examples, I like to name it, a living trust, whatever you decide, grantor's name. If you're operating ministries, you might call it like, abbreviation of your name, like David, we did one of ours, DLM, in living trust. Now, I'm calling it a living trust because that's what they are. I'm trying to save a little bit of hassle for you in the future. You don't want to, in case you amend the trust and you set up or a title of a car, and you decide to amend this, in the title of your trust name, you might have revocable. You don't want that. You just want to call it a living trust, because you may at one time need to amend it. And as I'll surprise you at the end, we'll show you how to amend trust real quick. So this is going to cover the whole 9 yards. So Schedule A here is also at the end. I'm sure if anyone else, you guys seen a trust, you'll understand. But for the newbies, you'll get to know the purpose of the trust. You have to declare your intent, the purpose of the trust. So the purpose of this trust are asset management, to manage and protect the grantor's assets during the lifetime, including in the event of incapacity. Back to probate avoidance. That's why this trust is created also, to facilitate an efficient transfer of the grantor's assets to the designated beneficiaries without the need for a probate. Get the government out of your business. Beneficiary support, to provide financial support to designated beneficiaries upon the grantor's death. Incapacity planning, to ensure seamless management of the grantor's financial affairs should they become incapacitated. So we covered everything right there. Trust property. This trust property should consist of the following categories of assets, which are assigned and transferred to the trust by the grantor. Now you can list them there. Because they're listed at the end, I just put an overall real estate, personal property, financial accounts, business interests, life insurance policies, and the initial funding, we're still funding with the silver because we want to put some actual silver or gold. Just put something real in there that's of some value. It doesn't have to be silver at this point because I don't care about the fiat guys. We're just declaring. So this could be gold coins too. Just put something that, that actually holds earthly value. So, and then put your other stuff in. Okay, so you get your $21 of silver funding, and that's mostly for a court case and a situation under the Seventh Amendment, but we'll talk about that on the private side. Appointment of trustee. You always got to appoint a trustee. Grantor appoints trustee. Could be yourself, so you would just write your own, as trustee, administer the trust. Now, mind you guys, I'm going to give the public side guys a little, because this is a public side viewing. I don't really talk about our private side stuff, but if you're using your capital letter name, you might make that the grantor, and then you might want to write, just for instance, John Henry Capital name Doe is the grantor, because that's, who they're regulating in commerce, government, that state created birth certificate name. So make him be the grantor of your trust, and cite John of the family Doe, John Henry of the family Doe, which would be you, the living man, would be the trustee. So keeping a little bit of a separation, and once again bringing in the you're managing the name, and he created a trust, so you're managing the trust as a trustee. And by the way, you also hold power of attorney over, so anyways, so yeah, you got all those bases covered. Trustee powers and duties. The trustee is granted the following powers. Hold on, let me go over the appointment of the trustee. I'm sorry. The grantor appoints, you name your trustee as trustee to administer the trust. If the trustee is unable or unwilling to serve, always important, successor trustee. In a revocable trust situation, you'd usually want to name that as your kid, your beneficiary. So in case something happens to you, your husband, whatever, this trust is just basically set up right now as a grantor, but it could be two grantors, husband and wife, and this can easily be converted to a, two-party trust. So maybe the successor trustee would be the wife, or in case something happens to the husband or the wife, you would stipulate in there either or upon incapacitation, then, but always put your kids or your beneficial interest, I would recommend, as your successor trustees, from my dealings with the bank and the outside world and anywhere else you would need to present this trust if it was doing banking or needed to be on the record somewhere. So will serve as a successor trustee. The trustee shall have the full authority to manage the trust in accordance with the terms and provisions of this trust agreement. Trustee powers and duties. I know trusts can get long, but we just lay them out. And this is, the trustees granted the following powers and responsibilities to be exercised in the best interest of the trust and its beneficiaries. Management, manage, sell, lease, invest, and reinvest trust property. Distributions, distribute income or principal from the trust to the grantor or beneficiaries directed. Borrowing and lending, borrow, lend funds on behalf of the trust. Payment of expenses, pay expenses, taxes, debts, other obligations of the trust. Legal actions, initiate, defend legal on behalf of the trust. Amendment and revocations, implement amendments or revocations directed by the grantor. Okay. I'm sure everybody's heard of a spendthrift provision, very important to put into your trust. So we add this in. This is, knowledge to the public side also. Look up spendthrift provision, and I'm going to explain it here. But no beneficiary of this trust shall have the power to assign, transfer, encumber, and otherwise alienate their interest in the trust property prior to distribution. The interest of each beneficiary is protected from creditors, legal claims, or voluntary assignment until the assets are released by the trustee, distributed, released. So that would keep creditors away from your trust by telling them if you're looking, and how they would find out about the beneficiary. That would be his screw up by letting them know that there is a trust or something involved. So you also got to think about that. Okay, now we come to the other players, the VIPs, the beneficiaries. Upon the grantor's death, the following individuals or entities shall be beneficiaries of this trust. Name, address. I usually just put name. I don't state, the full name of the state, Michigan, just city, Sterling Heights, and that's it. Name the person. John of the family, Doe, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, maybe if there's taxes involved, you might want to declare him as the John of the family, but you can name him whatever his name's on his driver's license. You don't have to get crazy with this stuff. So, trust property shall be distributed as outlined in section 9 here. Distribution of trust property, real estate, and this is for the grantor because you really want to describe all your stuff. I'm pushing these things because I'm in my 50s. Some people set up their trust, maybe have some finances, want to hide it. They may be in their 40s, young couples. You want to be able to take charge because things could change down the road. So you need to learn this stuff so you can protect your assets without having to get milked by an attorney for $5,000 every time you have a trustee that quits on you or moves out of state or can't, handle affairs or passes away. As you get older, you'll find that's what happened to me with my aunt, just for example. A lot of her trustees had passed away suddenly, and they had created the trust, but it was like 16, 17 years old, and then the executors died and the main trustee and a couple of even the beneficiaries. The whole thing, it was just really screwed up. And then you pay good money for that, and then she had to go get it restructured. So I just took charge knowing what I knew and restructured everything, and without costing her another, if a lawyer would have done, and it's really not that hard to do. So anyways, I just wanted to explain that. That's why we're really pushing the trust. It's not about keeping you out of court. Yes, you can use it, but I won't teach you those tricks on this public teaching. So join the fellowship, man. It's well worth it. The grantor may revoke or amend the trust at any time during their lifetime. Any revocation or amendment must be in writing, signed by the grantor, and delivered to the trustee. Trustee compensation. This is basic language for any trust. Trustees entitled to reimbursement for reasonable expenses incurred while administering the trust. This trustee may also receive reasonable compensation for services rendered as allowed by law or as determined by the grantor. Liability of the trustee. Here you go. The trustee shall not be liable. The provision's written in there. For loss or damage of the trust property unless caused by willful misconduct, gross negligence, or breach of fiduciary duties. Trustee must act in good faith and in the best interest of the trust and its beneficiaries. Now, mind you, this is what real government should look like. This is the trustee liability, minding that you don't do any harm or actual damage. This is governing ourselves. And then you'll see in the next structure, the governing law, trustee agreement shall be governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of the Article 4, Section 4, Republic, your actual real government of Michigan and or wherever, Washington, Maryland, Virginia, and enforceable in all 50 Article 4, Section 4 Republic states of the, and I even put lowercase United States of America. That's where we live. I'm not even calling ourselves, there's no need to say we're nationals and all that. We're just Americans. We're over here, we're private sector civilians. And, actually, you should be calling yourself, if you're going to operate your ministry, call it what it is. Tell them you're a First Amendment citizen if they want to call you. Say you're a religiously exempt citizen. You're pronouncing your religious beliefs if they want to get silly. Just don't ever admit to being a 14th Amendment citizen. Anyways, here's your signing. Grantor, trustee, successor. I recommend bringing all three to the party because this is an important document. There's your witnesses. Witnesses are there because some states are different, so we're just going to cover all 50 states for you guys. And your notary. That's it. You're done there. Good to go. That's a legal trust, valid, revocable. Schedule A, once again, at the end. I'm leaving it up to you guys to add in what you want. This one's set up for an actual, like a family trust, so it's listing all the property. I do have one that I created just for our automobiles. I'm going to have that available. I have one for bank accounts, so that's what you get on the fellowship side. You get, I get all the documents ready for you. And when we start getting into the irrevocable trust structure in those lessons, but they're going to be a couple weeks out anyway, about a month out, I would say, till we really get into them. So I want you guys to understand your power of attorneys and the first steps here. Okay, so you'd list your property, anything you want, be very detailed, list the accounts, the account numbers, credit cards. And mind you, this doesn't get released to the public. This is just for your trustees or your kids, so they know where everything's at. And then also we always put the initial funding of the $21, but like I said, it can be gold. We're not worried about any of that. They understand. So then I added at the end, and also I'm going to add in here a future property thing, but I haven't detailed it yet because I'm trying to keep these trusts a lot shorter. This one's actually 6 pages instead of having all these long documents because you don't need them. Real estate, personal, financial, business, insurance. And if you need, you can get a hold of me and we can go through it or whatever. If you need one structured for your family or your loved one. The assignments here after, just to put the icing on the cake. This is the grantor assigning it over and signing, which is his intent, which I told you in the beginning. So this is his declared intent, his affirmation, and no fancy language. Just, I hereby assign, transferring today all my right, titles, and interests in the property listed in Schedule A. And I'm probably going to add that and future property listed in Schedule A just to cover in case someone doesn't get around to. Most revocable trusts have a future Schedule A, so it covers you. It just lists a bunch of different items, so you're covered in case something happens. And that's it. And as you can see, I drafted it so you have any questions. It's been drafted to meet all the legal requirements. Like I said, that's basically your signing pages, so you guys know if you were going to question. everything's laid out for you. It's a legal document ready to go. So now you did a revocable trust. Well, we all know that. So let's say a creditor's snooping around. Well, you want to get a hold of us over here at RTC Trust Management Group. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to need to find somebody at arm's length, one person in your state, or we offer those services. But if it's in a situation where it's involving something you need maybe them to show up, you might just want a friend in a state. So an independent trustee that's not blood related or employed to you, just at arm's length. Converting trust to irrevocable status and appointment of an independent trustee. That's all you need to do to convert. Now, when I told you earlier, we don't list in the title revocable trust because of this. So now your bank account will be protected. We're done asking banks and all that. We shouldn't be asking them. What we do after we structure a trust, and then we would come back and give them the certification. What are they going to do? Kick you out? Like there are that Truth in Lending Acts, all the all the better business. They understand. They wouldn't have nothing to say. So we need to create our own bank accounts is what I'm getting at, but that'll be in different lessons. Converting the trust to an irrevocable status and appointment of independent trustee. Same in the beginning introduction. Here you go. This amendment to the grantor's name, revocable living trust, or the name of the trust, originally dated. Put the date when we created the revocable trust. Is made and entered into this day, month, year, boom, 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 residing at all your address. You guys understand all that. Let's just get down to the brass tacks. This is a proper amendment. The purpose of the amendment is pursuant to the powers reserved by the grantor in the original trust agreement. The grantor now seeks to amend the trust to convert to an irrevocable trust and appoint an independent trustee. So you only need one who is at arm's length from the grantor and not blood related to ensure that proper and impartial management of the trust assets. Conversions of the irrevocable trust effective immediately. The grantor's name, the name of the revocable living trust, is hereby converted to an irrevocable trust. The grantor, in consideration of this conversion, permanently relinquishes all rights and privileges to revoke the trust. The trust shall no longer be subject to revocation by the grantor or any other party. Amend the trust, though no further amendments, modifications, or alterations may be made by the grantor. Withdraw trust property. Grantor waives the right to reclaim or withdraw trust property that has been transferred into the trust. Direct the trustee. The grantor relinquishes any power to direct or influence the trustee in the administration or distribution of trust property. The maximum, and I added maxims in here just in case it got into a situation with you in a court. So the maxim of law holds quod ab initio non vale in tractu temporis non, we that which is void from beginning does not become valid by time. Therefore, from the moment this trust is made irrevocable, the relinquishment of control by the grantor is absolute and irrevocable. Appointment of the independent trustee. You're going to grant the appointment. You're going to put his name in there, residing at his address, which is usually a mailbox. As the independent trustee is appointed to ensure an arm's length, unbiased administration of the trust. The independent trustee shall not be blood related to the grantor or any beneficiary, must act solely in the best interest of the trust and its beneficiaries. Trustee powers and duties. Upon the trust becoming irrevocable, the independent trustee shall have all the powers vested in them and by the original trust agreement in this amendment, including, we're back at it, and I put in some maxims for you guys to learn here, so they're all beautiful to write in other situations. The independent trustee shall manage, invest, and reinvest trust assets with the care and prudence consistent with the maxim. Vigilantius norm. The law aids those who are vigilant, not those who sleep on their rights. Distributions. The independent trustee shall distribute income or principal in accordance with the terms of the trust without undue influence from the grantor or any other party adhering to the maxim. Actitio personalitas mortem cum persona. A personal action dies with the person. The independent trustee owes a fiduciary duty to the beneficiaries of this trust. This is the fiduciary duties. Their actions must be impartial, just, and equitable, as stated in the maxim fiduciary est fidelis regitor. A trust is governed by fidelity. Legal actions. The independent trustee shall have authority to initiate or defend legal actions on behalf of the trust with the understanding of res judicata pro verite acceptutar. A matter adjudged is taken as truth. The rights of the beneficiaries are written in here. The beneficiaries of the trust, as named in the original trust agreement and Schedule A, shall retain the rights to receive distributions of trust property in accordance with the terms outlined. The spendthrift provisions included in the trust agreement remains in effect, ensuring that the beneficiaries' interests are protected from creditors or alienation under distribution is made by the independent trustee. As the maxim states, cujus est commodum adjus est onus. He who derives the benefit should also bear the burden. The beneficiary shall accept the trust distribution under the terms set forth in the trust agreement and this amendment. No impairment of contractual obligations. This amendment is made in full compliance with Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution, the Contract Clause, which prohibits any state from passing laws that impair the obligations of contracts. This amendment and this trust, as amended, constitute a valid and enforceable contract under this clause. The maxim pacta sunt subordinata agreements must be kept, shall govern this trust agreement, and no action shall impair its terms or enforceability. Did you hear that, little guy at the, local municipal government? This amendment, along with the original trust agreement, shall be governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of the state of, and shall be enforceable in all 50 states pursuant to Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. Severability. Should any provisions of this amendment be found to be invalid or unenforceable, such provisions shall not affect the remaining provisions, which shall continue to be valid and enforceable to the fullest extent permitted by law. Non-refert quid notum sit judice notum non sit in forma judici. It matters not what is known to the judge if it is not known in a judicial form. Effective date. This amendment shall take effect immediately upon execution, which you'll learn in contract law class today. Execution was stipulated in there by grantor and independent trustee. From the moment forward, the grantor's name, revocable living trust, shall be irrevocable. Your signature page, independent trustee. He's going to accept the appointment. Same thing, witnesses, notary. Laid it out for you guys. And that's a done deal if you want to protect your property and you understand. And that's why we're all operating here. And I'm giving you some of my knowledge and just, it's really not that hard. And I'm trying to make it more simple. So that was your first trust lesson. So we got 9 more to go. So you should be well versed as I get you through this. So, and this is public side teaching. So I hope anybody on YouTube watching this or in the fellowship on the public side, I hope that you enjoy, because this is going to be huge when we move into the future. You'll see, because your government's lost their ever loving minds. So anyways, I'm gonna end on that note, and I think we even filled the hour, so I'm open for some questions.
Well, Joe, I just want to say thank you very much for that. That's a completely different take on what most people use a simple living trust, or what is known as a revocable living trust. Um, you kind of turned it into a pretty powerful tool. So appreciate that.
The power is in the pen, Henry. The power is in the pen. And like I said, don't just it really it just come to our fellowship and join, and we're all going to teach and learn from each other. I don't know everything about everything. I what I did was just put my nose to the grindstone because I came into a situation where I had to help people out with their trust, such as my grandparents and now my aunt and my dad and my uncle that passed away. Then, everybody else that was involved with it, I had to pick up the pieces. And it was during a time of the COVID nonsense. So like to even see a lawyer or think about it at that time was so yeah, it's just all part of this awakening, and that's why you guys are here. This is what we should be doing as adults. It's bookkeeping and writing our words. Our word is our bond. Our bond's on the paper. In the beginning was the word. You learned about Noah. This is all, we're all adults here. We're not, you get what I'm saying? We're trying to learn and move on here, but everything is done with love, and I would never send anybody any bad way or say go do that. Or this is all giving you the power to sit down with a piece of paper and a typewriter and lay your intent out on the paper and know that everything in trust and set up your ministry. I really, that's I'm going to push that. You need to set up your ministry, and it's not that hard. And I'm going to show you how on the private side. So that's what we're here to do. Everybody's here to learn and network with each other, and hopefully we get other trusts or trusts and trust groups, or people that are looking out for the same thing, other fellowships, churches, anybody that we can work that's open-minded, that wants to create a society away from the United States and without the United States and under our constitutional rights under the First Amendment. But I don't want to preach too much. You guys understand. I think Daisy's got her hand up, so I'm going to let her speak if she wants to speak. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm here. I love you guys. We're here to just create, man, and everybody bring their ideas to the table. We're open book. So my email is always open. Email me at Joseph Anthony Minister and give me what you got. Tell me about yourself. Let me know what you want to do. If you are looking to get into the fellowship or get an invite, let me know.
All right, Daisy, you got a question?
I got a couple comments. Thank you, Joe, for sharing the trust information. You had some interesting perspectives there that I haven't seen before. I wanted to mention to everyone else, because I know individuals that are not here tonight that are already trying to work on structuring their trusts. They're having issues with finding trustees. And one of the problems is that a lot of people that are approached aren't really familiar with what a trust is. And sometimes being a novice, it's really difficult to explain to other people. So what I suggest to individuals in this group, and I'm suggesting that to the people that I'm working with on the side, is to send them to Substack, the Lords Trustee Substack page, or to actually get the links for a couple of the posts that are there, and let those posts do the talking for you. A really simple post that I highly recommend, not because I wrote it, but I wrote it so that it would be easy to read, is a very simple introduction to what private contracts are. And that was the Distinguished Pen. That's a great post for people to share, just to kind of open the door for individuals that they want to try to get on board as serving as trustees. Another one is podcast 2, where Joe goes over the operation of a trust and what a trust is. Very, very good. This one, when it comes up, would be another good one to share. So Because sometimes people,
we got 9 more coming, Daisy, after this.
yeah, but I'm saying for introduction, when you're trying to hit somebody up to help you out and serve as a trustee, you don't want to hit them with 9 posts, so just give them 1 or 2 and let those posts do the talking for you because they really do explain. Um, people are very suspicious and people are like, yeah, is this legal? They're asking all these questions because they've never heard of this thing. So that was one recommendation I wanted to make.
Okay.
That
Beautiful.
was it.
Beautiful. David, you got a question, bud?
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. As far as the power of attorney, the POA and DOS that I have from House of Marcus, is that sufficient for, I bring that in my car everywhere. I don't really have a POA besides that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great power of attorney. I just created our own stuff because I'm creating a little package because I built that metaphysical ordainment program, and I'll explain on the private side with you when we do our fellowship. This is a public teaching, but the strength of bringing in the ministry. So I'm tying up. I created a package that I want to put on the record at your township or county land records with this power of attorney. So I just took a lot of the language, and Robert was even doing the same thing, but I just created a shorter version of the power of attorney for the straw man name. You don't need to get like really difficult about it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to throw up any flags because it's basically this power of attorney is going to be tied to ministry documents. So I want them to, if they run such as like your plate, you get what I'm saying? So you know how you're set up on the road. So imagine if on the record they, get behind you, run your plate, and then they go reference the document that's on the record, and it's all your minister credentials. Then they're going to start itching their head and going. So, but I can't talk about that on the public side because I respect the government I don't want to upset YouTube or whatever. So that's all mentioned in the fellowship. There's no need to. But once again, another reason to come join us and enjoy. And like I said, I would love to have activities to do every night. I'm just working hard on documents, getting contracts, laying out trusts like this, documents for you, so you can start helping protect your property and assets and bank accounts, maybe because you got creditors call them, but you haven't got a judgment on you yet. So a trust is a powerful thing to get put in place, even if just to get your assets situated. So you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And one more question. Will we be assigning our birth certificates and social security cards, kind of like, the emblem on the cross, to the fellowship at some point?
that's
to the
all private side stuff, David.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Explanations.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, those security instruments and evidences of other things that like David will tell you, yeah, you want to get to the private side. But this is our public offering that we're giving in a podcast format. Sunday I'm gonna start the sermons because like I said, we created a church last year and we're moving forward coming into the fall, and we envision something. So we've got to preach what we preach, and that's why I'm here. I've got the time, so I'm preaching on Sunday. I'm going to get you, David. We're going to do a podcast here when we get a little bit more and bring some, and then I want to bring you on. We'll maybe talk about some pyramids and get some, you know what I mean? Like we want to start incorporating a lot of other things. I'm just more representing the trusts and contract right now and setting up the program of how we want to operate on the private side. And then we can start structuring people that do have their herbal businesses and have their, the PMAs. We'll go through all that stuff and get them so they finally know how to operate them right. And it all ties in together with all the trust paperwork and structures and stuff. Court stuff, I don't know what to tell you. I would be able to help you out if you were structured properly through what we know. So that's about it, man. So yeah, come join me at the sermon on Sunday if you're out in the public. You'll learn a lot of good metaphysical knowledge there, maybe get a little spiritual. I'm going to start, and it will be like no sermon you will normally adhere to that you would think of. So we're going to get into some breath work, and we're going to get down, and I want you to basically sit there, and I'm going to break down the Bible really detailed now. And I want you to just sit there doing some breath work and being calm and act as if God is speaking to you through the speaker and interpreting the Bible to you. That's what I'm going to try to make it fun and very knowledgeable and spiritual. So,
Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you. Love you.
love you too, brother. And that about it, like, I don't know what's going
Joe,
on.
Joe, the link to Sunday's service is in the chat for anybody that wants it.
Cool. If you guys want to share that with anybody, I'm gonna do it live, and then I think we agreed. I tried to do it last week, but it was just too hard to get set up. But now we're good. But then we're gonna re-release it, I think, in the afternoon on Sunday, if not the next day on YouTube. So it'll be there for a replay. But really
So-
want to, and if anybody else wants to incorporate, that's in the fellowship, that's operating as a minister, if they want to do a teaching or whatever, we can set that up through our, however our structure, however we structure it. So I don't want to be the only one that's doing all the teachings. I want other people to feel free to step in and do some other stuff and build the organization with us. So we're all, if you're a fellowship member, you were all for one and one for all, because we're all one under the sun. So, but
Hey,
yeah.
Joe, I got a question for you. The relationship between the creator, this is for an irrevocable trust.
Mm-hmm.
You only need one arm's length trustee.
For a standard irrevocable trust, it's nice to have two, but for what we're doing, just from amending a revocable, yeah, that's all you need. One arm's length, and then you could add a blood person. It's just you can't add someone as blood or a beneficiary like you could in a revocable trust situation where you can play.
Okay, so the creator and one of the trustees can be related as long as there's one arm's length trustee.
Yeah. And in that situation, I would recommend two. If you add another trustee that's blood related, then I would want two independent, because you want to keep the balance like 2-1. So if you just
Okay.
if you create a trust, because there might not be, a lot of people might not, like, say you don't have a lot of people around. So you I've helped out individuals. One lady, she didn't even have anybody. The poor lady didn't have anyone to leave it to. So we had to set up a charity or her church. She left, but that's what I'm saying. So she just played the grantor and the beneficiary, or the, the grantor and the trustee, and the beneficiary was someone that she had set up at her church, that one of the ministers that they agreed to. But yeah, you might not have, what I'm saying, Daisy, in a situation. So you just have someone that is at an arm's length, and that's what they're doing. And you're just saying, hey, you agreed to do this. That's what proper business, that's what General Motors doing. That's what JP Morgan's doing. They're just going like, hey, I'm a beneficiary executive over here, because it's all contract. But we'll get deeper in as we, teach on the fellowship side, the private side of the
Okay, thanks.
fellowship. But yeah, one's fine, just to do an amendment, just get them in there. You know how the situation works. So
Yeah,
I was just saying, if you were producing something on the record, such as a certification, I would want that language to have two. So let me clarify it. I would want to show a strong, irrevocable trust, so they wouldn't try to poke
right.
it, because that's what they look. I teach you how to keep your chain links up, and they look to try to look for holes in them. So we just build our toolbox, and once we're structured properly, and we and this is, and I'll tell the public this right now so we can end this podcast, but you operating as the minister, your spiritual under your First Amendment religious exemptions and your right to congregate with people and form churches and communities and fellowships like this is where our strength comes from, man. So like it's really important to want to walk in that light, especially during today's times. So
All
really
right.
want to push that the ministry, and ministries can be many of things. You could be a ministry of building Harley Davidsons, man. As long as you're talking to the Lord and telling it spiritually feeding you or whatever, you can set up whatever you want. Just learn to know to keep the government out of your life, and that a pen is mightier than the sword. And I'm proving it
So
right here.
your experience, or anybody else in the group that has information on this, if you list 2 trustees on your certification, you take that to a bank to open a bank account for an irrevocable trust. Do banks want both trustees there to sign or just one?
No, usually whatever, just one trustee is fine, because that's all. It's like your certification that one or both if they're present, but one is representing the board, because
Okay,
previously to that, Daisy, like I said, on the private side, you're gonna have a thing called a meeting of minutes. So that's gonna be
all right.
another contract that'll already stipulate that everybody who's going to do what business at the bank.
Daisy, I didn't need any of the trustees there when I did mine.
Really?
No, they just needed to see my certification of trust and know who the successor trustee was.
Like I
What,
explained.
what position were you, David, when you went there? What role were you?
Grantor.
And you opened the account?
I opened the account.
Yeah.
Was that for a revocable trust or irrevocable?
Irrevocable.
And
Get
irrevocable.
out.
Well,
Yep.
he's setting it up for the trust, and we're giving them in, Daisy, on the private side. It's
Now that's not the story I got from the bank I went to yesterday. So I'll have to find
Yeah,
out.
it's not the story that you'll usually get, but everything's different. But, in my situation, 3 different times, they wanted at least one trustee there. If the other trustee is not a signer on the account, you can get away with the one. But that's a new one, and I'm glad you're able to do that, David. But
What? Let me clarify. Originally, I was basically the only trustee, but we what did we do, Joe? We went in and I assigned over to.
they weren't sure if your trust was revocable or irrevocable.
That's right.
So
Right.
we went and made sure that it was irrevocable and set up a new certification. And as soon as he dropped off the certification, all their stuff at the bank, they stopped, and there was a done deal. So that certification was dropped off.
Okay,
The-
so he didn't start fresh then. He already had an account
You
there.
already had an account.
Correct.
Okay, that's different. All
A little
right.
different.
Like,
little
just
different.
like you do,
Yes.
and just like I said, that we can, just like I showed you in an amendment. And a lot of banks are more cool with you. Just start the bank account as a revocable, get eased in, get to know your people, and then tell them
Correct.
you're restructuring. But you owe them no obligations, nor could their banking their businesses laws don't override your right to do a contract on your
Okay, great.
revocable trust. So we instead of asking these guys, is what I'm saying. And in our situation, I'm putting everybody, like everybody was always focused on how do I do business, and we're always, like I'm like, yeah, the manager position, trustee. The ideal position of these trusts, you want to be the beneficiary. So yes, if David had a board meeting of resolutions and he came in and we said, since you're just the beneficiary, we're going to send you temporary because you don't hold legal title. And that's too clarified with the 2 trustees writing the board meeting of minutes saying David is going to operate the account as the beneficiary, but he's got to do accounting for us and stuff like that, because obviously it's his account, because that's why he's in the trust. So he's got beneficial use of stuff. We're the ones that operate the legal title. So you could send him down as the beneficiary, just saying, we gave him a manager position to be the account managing, but he doesn't have legal title issue. You get what I'm saying? So that's what you got to really wrap your head around. And the resolution and the board meeting minutes, the stuff that nobody's telling you, all this, the proposals, it's all wrapped up. So when you get into a situation, you can go, hey, we had the proposal on this date. This is when I got nominated as secretary. This is when I went down and opened the bank account. That was the resolution that was resolved there. It's all under Article 1. It's just a contract all the way through from beginning to end, woven like a nice Shakespearean play. And that's all you have to learn how to do and channel your spirit when you're writing. You can do it with one word or one line sentences, most of your stuff. Write, sign, convey, title, whatever. You know, I just say get your bank accounts set up first and then move them over to irrevocable. It was a lot easier. David will even tell you because they were all confused anyway. So we
that's
just
what I'm
came in.
getting. It's a lot easier to do it that way.
Right. So I know how the banks work. And you shouldn't even really have any problems anyway. You know, like most of these creditors, IRS, they're jokes. They don't ever go after the bank accounts. If they do, it's because they gave you money or really criminally caught you. Most of the stuff they're chasing you around for, these creditors, no judge is going to give a creditor from American Express or or whoever a judgment on your bank account when you've got evidence of it tied to a board meeting or however you've done it, and then it's assigned, even though it's a revocable. But if you do an assignment to an irrevocable trust, you get what I'm saying? That's so much powerful. That's just a contract, like I just laid out. It's an amendment. We just assigned this trust now. Now there's we gave full, but they just let me. I went to a beneficiary position, like I was stating. That's what you're telling the bank. And I'm just, this is my account. I'm the beneficiary of it now. I've released full legal title of it over to the trust. And you have a trustee, like I said, if you got, that'll show up and sign, like Randy said. And then you got no problem because you got one trustee there and you got a couple of us on the outside. But as long as you got it, it makes it easy. So you only got to find one person in your community to go help you out if you do need a signature. So we're trying to make it easy. And if you got to bring them over to us and sit down and listen to my gibberish for an hour, I think they'll understand. And we don't really need to worry about it. Like, shit, these banks are getting ready to collapse. Sorry, I'm just being honest. Like, prepare for what you're getting ready to see. Like, we're 34 trillion in debt and the knuckleheads are out in full stride. We're going into election season. I couldn't tell you what's going to go on.
Well, Joe, a lot of great stuff, a lot of good nuggets dropped in tonight's podcast. So I think everybody will appreciate that.
The public's welcome. But yeah, if anybody needs any structure, Randy understands. He's been dealt with the banks. He's done it, Daisy. So, correct, Randy? You set up your irrevocable bank account. Other people, it's all about just making them understand. Randy will tell you half these people don't understand nothing. David will tell you he works at the bank or in a banking system. Like they're like, duh. So as long as your wording is correct and your intent, we're going to get back to intent. If your intent is there and in your heart and it's on the ink, there is no stipulations in the courtroom. We're not worried about the banking policy isn't going to prevent from, because that would be laughable to say, so tell me, Judge, when I had to ask the bank's permission to make my private revocable trust and assign the bank account over to an irrevocable trust. When did I have to tell everybody that? All I did was go in there with a certification and say, hey, just update that, put that guys in your record. Successor trustees haven't changed, and there you go. But you wouldn't even really need to do that because in a real situation, you've got that document, the amendment, the actual contract notarized, like I just showed you. You walk that in the bank and they're not going to have to say shit because there's no way they could bring you into a probate situation. You'd be like, dude, I'm calling the sheriff right now. I'm making a complaint. Better Business Bureau. Like, watch this. You'll never win in a courtroom. Take me into probate. I dare you. That's full equity now with the estates and stuff. Now we are talking trust. Let's get down to brass tacks. Anyways, but love you guys. And yeah, I'm just happy that we're preaching what we're teaching. Saturday, we'll have our membership, Wendy and John, and we'll discuss whatever you guys want to talk about. I'll end up running out of stuff, but I'm really going to focus on trust and contracts. I know that some people are dealing with debt. I'm still working on that stuff. I haven't finished a lot of those documents because I just wanted to start building our teachings because it all is the foundation of everything. So, and then
All right, Joe, we're at an hour and a half.
Oh,
So,
sorry.
Yeah, no, this was a great podcast. So I do appreciate it. And I think unless there's any other questions, we'll end it here. And if everybody could just hang tight after I end the podcast, I'd appreciate that. So any other questions that we'll bring out here on the public podcast? We all good?
We're all good.
All right.
All good.
Sounds great. I'm going to end the recording. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Hang tight.